has been waived. And that's been a blessing for a lot of people. So 100% can be received as early as that first week. And then they've increased it by $600 per week for up to 4 months. And for many people, that's more than what they have, excuse me, let me slow down because I'm getting excited. That's more than what they earned, right? Free money is good money, right? But that's more than what they earn in some cases on their job. So literally, the third type that a lot of people are excited about, I know that I am because I still have student loans out there, is just that student loan payment deferral program. So anyone with a federal student loan isn't required to make any payments until September the 30th. And that is huge. So we all know that interest is not accruing on that student loan. And then I tell some of my clients, you need to really look at your situation. And let me share this with you all. Look at your situation. Depending on what type of loan that you have, it may be advantageous for you to continue making payments, particularly if you're on the public forgiveness loan program, right? You want to make that consistent 120 payments. That's over a 10-year period. So what you want to look at is the advantage of not having to pay interest during this time period, which can be some savings. For other clients, it may be a great idea to defer the payments on your student loan and reallocate it to another goal that's important to you. It may be just keeping the lights on for some clients. It may be that you can advance some of those payments towards your credit card, car note, mortgage. You have to determine what's going to be the best reallocation category for your life, but that's huge savings. So just as far as some tips around that, and I'm not going into the investment strategies just yet, Mr. King, but I know we're going to come to that today, is ask yourself, how is this shift going to best benefit me? How can I reallocate my dollars? That's tip number one. Make sure that you are adequately maintaining your lifestyle, but that you're not advancing your lifestyle so quickly that you have no certainty of when you're going to be returning to work and earning that full-time income. Quite a few of my clients have been either furloughed, they've been put on part-time basis, and or if they're in sales for jobs like or careers like Elam and I, right? Some of those clients that we were looking to onboard or acquire have said, well, let me pump the brakes a little bit and let me wait. So now what does that mean to individuals who are commissioned or entrepreneur-owned businesses? That means that they may have to wait in receiving revenue. They have to wait in receiving commissions. So look at that. Definitely pay down any type of accruing interest on credit cards or debt that you can. And then the tax and retirement piece is the last piece to the stimulus that I want to focus on. This is where you've seen a bulk of the revisions take place. And I think it's pretty key for a lot of individuals because, you know, when you can withdraw up to $100,000 of your retirement plan without having to worry about a 10% penalty, that's $10,000 off the bat if we're looking at that $100,000 maximum amount. That literally is a game changer for many people. Now, let me be cautious and say, if you can leave that money earmarked for your future lifestyle, you want to do that. You want to try to pin that money for the future. But I have some individuals who say, you know what? I have to worry about today. I have kids at home. They're requiring a whole lot more in terms of food. So what? I need access to these dollars, right? So make sure that when you're looking at that, that you look at a formula of how much do you need to withdraw in order just to sustain you until you return to some sense of normality for your career and your life. But I think it's important to realize that that 10% penalty again is waived, and then the 20% mandatory withholding that typically happens is not required or enforced at this time. And so the last piece I'll add to that is, listen, ladies and gentlemen, most times when we would take a loan from our retirement plans, we would place ourselves, or the company would place ourselves on a repayment plan. Please take advantage of making sure that you put that in force intentionally and not allow it to just be one of those situations where, hey, I'll withdraw the funds, use it for whatever I need to, and then I won't worry about it. Your future lifestyle is just as important as your present, but I will say, please make sure that you repay yourself systematically over time.
Hey, Champ, you taking notes?
Yeah, I'm literally writing that down right now. Look,
and we want to take a moment. So thank you so much, Ms. Davis, for the information that we're sharing. This is the Empower May online, I'd say, conference / education / just there's going to be multiple different areas that's going to be touched here, and this is actually sponsored by Greater Works Tabernacle, and we just have a couple of topics that we just wanted to empower you with throughout the month of May. Who we have with us is Miss Ashaunda Davis, a financial advisor, and just dropping nuggets.
Yeah, and I'm taking questions off of YouTube and Facebook. That's why you see me kind of doing different things. So we have people tuning in, and so at the end we'll have a segment for questions. Some things that
get your questions in, y'all. Get your questions
in. But no, I'm learning a lot. So let me ask you this: what are some of the, I guess, common issues you've seen people running into during this time, in particular, with the unexpected loss of consistent income, or the various issues that people have run into just with everything shutting down? Have you had people come to you with different different circumstances that they just didn't know how to move forward from that? Have you had that happening?
Well, absolutely, yes.
Mm-hmm.
And I think some of the hugest hurdles that I've heard so far is definitely, again, having the sudden loss of income. That's not, anything that we aren't familiar with, but it's something that we have to be agile with, right? How do you quickly pivot when you don't have that income coming in? And I think that's why a lot of my clients will consistently hear me at all stages of their financial planning process preach, and I practice this, is consistently having that liquidity. I think it's because it's 7 o'clock, my mind and my tongue usually aren't speaking. And so there's a time delay. So I'm gonna ask everybody to please forgive me. If you get me at 7 o'clock a.m., it's a different situation. I feel the disconnect happening.
You good.
Yeah.
But so having that cushion, ladies and gentlemen, we are responsible for our own rescue, first and foremost. Now, I will say, I am very glad that our government has gone through the measures and the extremes that they have in order to support our American economy. However, you have to support your economy. I have a system that I title, I don't title it, but someone actually presented it to me, and I've stolen it and ran with it. I gave them credit the first 3 times, but it's called Your Personal Economic Model, right? So being agile, having enough of a cushion available. And the main reason why is because we don't really want to lean on our credit cards if we don't have to. Let that be the last line of defense, right? For sustaining the purchase of groceries and keeping the fridge stocked and all of that good stuff. So that's the first thing, the income loss. Of course, their retirement plans and or investments taking a huge plummet. Somewhere between 11 and 20% is what I'm seeing with several of my clients, to include my own investment portfolio. But also now, having seen that it's mine, I'll say this for myself and for at least I would say about 45% of my clients, they're starting to see their portfolios tick north, right? But it still hasn't yet rebounded, because all of us know that if you earn 10% and you lose 10%, you need to earn actually 11% just to even out, right? I think that's important for us to understand. Loss of income, market, those are the main 2 drivers that I'm seeing so far. And you know, again, some of the pluses, I've had clients who say, listen, Ashaunda, I have more to invest. Let's do it. What are we going to do? So there's some benefits. And I also believe that, again, wherever there's an obstacle, there's an opportunity.
Yeah.
Wherever there's an obstacle, there's an opportunity. So to see more families be able to literally slow down and come together, get a chance to know each other. Now we know we have some domestic violence going on out there, and I think it's on both fronts, the man against the woman, and there's some women against the men as well. But praying for those families, nonetheless, I think there's more union. I think there's more love, I pray, and more time spent that's valuable.
Elam, if you don't mind, I wanted to ask one more question in relation to that. So how can one, or what are a few ways that one can prevent being unprepared for another situation like this if it were to happen?
Listen, some of the conventional wisdoms out there.
Settle on in on this one.
Right? Some of the conventional wisdom that we're accustomed to hearing is conventional for a reason, right? But then there are some other unique strategies that you can implement. And when I say that, guys, the way we spend our money and the way we are aware of how our income comes in, it's important for us to have a high level of awareness and intentionality and discipline around our spending. And so what I think this has done for quite a few people is cause them to have to stop spending so much in certain categories, but spend more in others, right? Pay attention to, if you don't really need it, you may need to save it or invest it for times such as these. Does that make sense? So that's one, pay attention, manage it. And there's a rule of thumb that I hope to offer everybody here. And that rule of thumb around spending is, listen, 20% should go toward savings and investment strategies. So if you're already investing, let's say 4% on your job because they're matching at that 4%, or they're matching at 6%. So that's 6% of the 20 total that you want to look at saving and investing, and make sure that you're doing a diligent job of saving and investing the other percent that's left over. Then you look at your essential expenses, you know, your house note, car note, rent, all of those things. Try to minimize those to 60% of your gross income. Okay. Then you look at your discretionary expenses. Now, this is where Elam sometimes he forgets. Can I share some stories with you, Mr.? not too in depth, but I'm just going, listen, the way that I help my clients plan and the way that I live my life is making sure that we can enjoy today. But we're just not wilding out today and forgetting about all the other goals that we're saying are important to us. So that other 20%, that's around discretionary expenses. Whatever life looks like for you in terms of enjoyment, use it to spend it on that, right? So for Elam, it might be taking a trip to Paris. For you, Mr. Chancey, it might be, you and your spouse traveling across the 50 plus states in America, right?
Yep.
So it's all depending on, again, what's relevant and what's most important to you, that you allocate that 20%. But off the top, that 20% towards savings and investing is really for you. Now, I want to say something that I've been noticing quite a bit of, and that is people are confused around the idea of paying yourself. And what does that mean? And what does that look like, right? So I had a client tell me, well, I pay myself and then I just go and spend it. I think there's a fine line between paying yourself a cash allowance and paying yourself to save and invest. They're distinctly different. So those are some tips just around the spending. We already kind of talked about debt. Now listen, during this time, this is a time where you do want good credit. Can I get an amen from somebody?
Amen.
Yes.
Right? Because our reality is that having good credit literally puts money back in your pocket in some regards. When you pay your bills on time and you're keeping a level of debt in check below 30% utilization, or better yet, how about this? Don't charge more than what you're willing to pay off by the end of the month. How about that? Right? So, but with that,
Can we get an amen on that one? That was
right.
You need to bring the organ in, champ.
You're so
On
silly.
that right there.
You are
Go
so
ahead.
silly. But that literally helps to improve your credit score, which in turn gets you better rates on everything from our cell phone plans, our insurances, the car insurance that we pay for every single day, right? That's not
Right.
going anywhere at any point in time. It also obviously helps with the big ticket purchases or major capital purchases like your mortgages. So, you know, and in today's time, you might need you might need a loan for the sustainability of your business. Well, how do you do that if you don't have good credit to lean on? So credit is definitely important. We already talked about savings and really building that up. But then another tip that I do want to lean in on, Chauncey, based on your question, is just make sure that when you are investing, it matches your goals and your timeline and your natural pedigree of how you are to invest. So I have some clients who are super, super nervous about losing any of their investment or principal. Then I have some clients who say, hey, take it all. We'll gamble it. We'll run with it. We want to be very aggressive. So you want to make sure that it matches your goal, B, it matches your timeline, but then C, it matches your risk tolerance and your pedigree for investing.
You also got your frugal. You're frugal, guys.
Yeah, so you're frugal on some expenditures. You're not really frugal when it comes to investing. You're pretty aggressive in investing in your business, which is a great thing. That's your concentrated asset, right? You will throw money at it. And that's one thing that a lot of men I find do, but we'll get into that hopefully in the next upcoming piece of our conversation.
I do want to briefly touch back on something because I'm taking notes, trying to keep up. You dropped so many nuggets. So back to so earlier you broke down the percentages. You said 20% for savings and investments, 60% for rent, different living expenses, 20% for discretionary, whatever you decide to do. And then you mentioned, and I'm just going back over some points just in case some people miss one of these gems.
Yeah.
You also said, when it comes to your credit card, don't charge more than what you're willing to pay off at the end of the month, which is crucial. Crucial. I that's for me. Keeping it, but you said really below 30% usage. And lastly, investing to match your goals, 2 timelines, and 3 risk tolerance. And I think that was key because investing is kind of like that hot topic right now. And I think people are just throwing money at anything that someone says is a good investment, but is not matching any of their goals at all. Most people just say, oh, what's the 2 things they think of? Real estate and stock. And nobody even thinks about, all right, what are my future goals? So that's key. That's something I'm going to start looking more into as far as matching goals and timelines and risk tolerance. So great points.
Thank you. Yeah. Were there any other questions out there in regards to that topic?
No, someone asked about investments. How do they know what type of investments to make? But that's why I touched back on that point. You kind of answered that. I didn't know if there was anything more on that you wanted to say, but they were wondering, how do they know what type of investments to make?
That is such a broad question, and I prefer to have a question like that answered one-on-one, because when we can peel back the layers around the goals that are important to you, and I'll give you an example of a client, then we can match where to invest that money or with what companies to invest in. We call those holdings. So I have a young lady, she's doing some phenomenal things with her employment, and she came to me, she said, Ashaunda, you know what, I'm investing on my job, but I want to do some individual investing. She also says, I'm making this significant income, and I don't want to wake up one day and wonder what in the world did I do with that money, right? And have nothing at all to show for it. So she also said, hey, I have this idea to take, what I have saved and really just dump it on my student loans. What is your advice around that? So I kind of give you guys this broad scenario because, once she and I really unpacked what was important to her, we realized that she, someone like Mr. Elam King, she's very frugal in some regards. She's very frugal in some regards. And so she needed to maintain liquidity and accessibility to the amount that she had in her savings account. And so therefore it did not make sense to dump that money on her student loan debt just because she had heard some philosophies and concepts around that. But then also she has an affinity towards certain companies for certain reasons. And when we looked at different investment vehicles, what we realized is that her income was causing her to be phased out of some of your traditional investment vehicles. For example, she could not invest anything, at least not until she completes her 2020 taxes, into a Roth IRA or a traditional IRA, right? Because once you hit a certain income threshold, then you may be partially or entirely phased out of being able to make any of those contributions for investment purposes. So we had to remove that off of the table. Now there are different companies within each portfolio fund family, but that didn't make sense for her. So we looked at some other unique opportunities. We looked at having a brokerage account where she can select and individually invest in different companies on her own, but we identified an amount per month that made sense for her to consistently contribute, or what we call dollar cost average. So she's taking advantage of the highs in the market and the lows in the market. We also looked at some other strategies like an annuity, permanent life insurance. We looked at all kinds of things. So, a lot of people ask those generic questions, but I'm telling you, if you don't have your goals associated with it, and you don't have someone who's a professional helping you to identify, listen, are you even able to invest in certain things, then it won't make sense. But now anybody can definitely open up, your Cash App account and start selecting different stocks. But my recommendation there is to segment an amount of money per month, whether that's 5% of your income or the remaining portion of that 20% to save and invest, and use those dollars for investments, right? To make purchases, make trades, make sales. But it just depends on the individual.
Wow. And there was one more. Someone else had a pretty good question. We actually hear it quite a bit. How much cushion should you save up? They said, I hear 3 to 6 months, or should it be a year?
So listen, if you are a baby crawling, which means that you literally have nothing to very little in your current savings account, let's just aim. How about we just aim for 3 months? There's a lofty goal, and a lot of us want what we want now, and we want to make rapid transformation now, but that's an ideal. That's not people's typical habits. So I say that to say, you want to say something on that, Mr. King?
Hey, listen, that's real. And I think some people don't say that. You just think, oh, okay, I'm just going to save. And then something happens. And then, or you feel like you want to go do this or that. Something always comes up, right? And then you're, like, oh, I wanted to do this. And so that level of discipline, it's the same thing with eating. It's the same thing with health and fitness inside a relationship. Regardless, you have to speak the language and are ongoing and practicing. And I'm saying that to say that it was, feel like I was going to the principal's office every time we had a meeting. I was like, I don't even want to go to this meeting today because I'm going to be in trouble for an hour.
Ladies and gentlemen, he was not in trouble at all. Trust me, we had a really, really great time. We've become great friends since then. But it's just,
yeah, we did.
Disciplining oneself to
it was good though. It was necessary. That's the thing.
Yeah. So disciplining oneself to even get started is one conversation, right? If you have a certain amount saved, but you really haven't purposed it, now that's a whole nother conversation, right?
Come on.
I have some individuals who literally just put money away. I have a nurse practitioner. She's doing some phenomenal things. And she's like, yeah, I have mattress money, I have money here, I have money in that account. And I said, well, when I asked her what the purposes were for those accounts, she was just like, I don't really know. So we helped to clarify based on what was important to her, what certain accounts would now be purposed for. So then that's another conversation. And I'm gonna come to the 3 to 6 months. But I have, there's some building blocks here that a lot of people skip. And I don't want you to skip, but that's also why I want to make sure that I offer you a free consultation if you mention Greater Works Tabernacle and in your conversation or scheduling with me, okay? But the other thing is, if you're single, I suggest that you save at least 3 months. If you're married, go ahead and strive for 6, right? Because that married couple with the family, they have way more expenses than a single individual without any children, right? So you want to make sure that you feel comfortable with the time frame and the amount that you need. Yes, sir.
I have a question. So if we were to start off with how would you suggest to actually, I guess I'm gonna break down a little bit further for the 3 months. Okay, would you recommend just let it be automatically deposited from your check right into the account? Would you suggest that that you just on your payday move it yourself? And the reason why I'm saying that, because there's different mechanics that are out there. There are apps that allow you to save a little bit here, save a little bit there. What's the vehicle that you would say is best to use? Is it some of these apps? Is it just your bank account? Click and just pick a day every week to do it. What are your thoughts there?
So each one of us have a different fingerprint, right? And I use that example or analogy to say that each person has a different savings philosophy, and there's a different strategy that should be used for that individual. So when I talk to Elam, it might be, Elam, you might feel more comfortable with manually making the transfer from your savings account because you want to make sure that all of your commission has come in, that you don't miss any of the other goals. And you're going to make sure that on said designated date that we're going to calendar, and we're going to put it on a reoccurring basis, that you manually move those funds. That might be for Elam, right? But for client X over here, they were like, you know what? If I don't go ahead and automate this thing, it's not going to happen. So let me either A, payroll deduct it into a savings account, or C, let me just set it up through my financial institution's automated system. So it depends on the person. Me, I'm disciplined enough to move it myself. But I have another client, she was like biting her nails when she and I were working together. And I said, let's go on your bank's website. Let's go ahead and set it up. But tell me, when do you think you feel most comfortable making those automated transfers? And so she was like, okay, it's done. And by the time she came to her next meeting, she was like, you know what? I didn't even miss it. Right? But then let me take this another step. Elam, to your point, I have some clients who they don't need to see the money saved in their current checking account. With their current financial institution where their checking account exists, because they're operating out of that account frequently. And when they see that money, they're thinking that money is accessible. It's usable, but it's not until you absolutely need it. So for those clients, we do set up other accounts with apps and or other money market accounts. We have some companies with us, some of my clients with our company. It just depends on the individual. So what I'm great at, and I'm not about tooting my horn, but what I am great at is not tailor making a plan for, not generalizing a plan, but tailor making a plan for each individual. Right? I don't treat client X the way I treat Elam, and I don't treat Elam the way I treat client X. It depends on that person. Long way to answer your question, but literally I wanted to unpack a couple of things that people miss.
No, that was great. I mean, because sometimes taking that first step, it just sounds good. Okay, just save. Well, if it was that easy.
Yeah.
So that's why, I don't know, Champ. Sorry, I had to put that
down.
No, that was great. I want to let everybody know that this is Miss Ashaunda Davis who is speaking this evening, and this episode of EMPOWERMAY is brought to you by Greater Works Tabernacle, and we just wanted to reach out into our community. Of course, we can't do it physically, so with the power of technology, just wanted to come together. And each week on Tuesday nights at 7 p.m., we're just going to be bringing different topics. Tonight is the infamous and one of the biggest things that a lot of people are thinking about right now, based upon the climate that exists, is finances. So, Ms. Davis, we thank you so much just for just the nuggets you've been dropping. My notes right here, Champ. I see.
Sure, yeah.
I know you you manning the page and taking the notes and
doing everything. We have a couple more questions that popped up. Well, a few, but I'm gonna pick some of them. One person said, where is the best place to park the money?
Okay, that goes back to it depends
she kind
on
of
the
just
individual.
Yeah,
I think that was maybe they didn't hear her. Oh, I'm sorry.
It's okay, but let me just help that person real quick. Again, it depends on you. If you need to park it in your savings account that's adjoined to your checking account, and you can maintain discipline where you're not, I call it the electric slide. You're not electronically sliding money into your operational account, then great. If you needed to set it up with an institution where you don't have online access, or you don't have access to an easy ATM debit card, then you may need to consider doing it with that institution that you may already have an account with, but it just depends on you. You may also want to look at some of these apps that I can't mention names because I am a registered investment advisor, but there are several apps that are available. I do know one of my clients is using Stash. And so there's a certain amount that comes out that kind of moves her towards her vacation goal. So
I have a personal question, and this kind of I mean, and I know you'll be completely honest, but just in our culture, what are some common money misconceptions that we have? Just I know a lot.
We about to go 2 hours.
No, we're not.
I mean, what are some common misconceptions? Because a lot of our financial problems are just because of generational habits. So yeah, if you could elaborate a little bit just on that.
Absolutely. As African Americans, we know that we dealt with and are dealing with financial disparity. There's a huge income gap between our counterparts. We have unequal opportunities available to us. So our advancement, our income advancement is not to the same level as many of our counterparts. And we are and have dealt with PTSD, right? That trauma has also caused us to make certain decisions to shoot for the moon, land on the stars, but can barely afford the stars. Okay, and when we look at that, we don't want to lean into those as excuses. We need to recognize them as true and real occurrences in our culture. But once again, I said earlier, we have to be responsible for our own economic conditions, right? And as best we can, whether that's starting with $100 in your savings or $10,000 in your savings, we have to start somewhere. And so I find that oftentimes, because fathers are missing out of homes, not you all's home, thankfully. If I can just be candid and be real and not try to play the gender against each other. With a lot of our female clients, what I've seen is that there's this overcompensation effort to pay for their missing parent. And it also happens with divorced parents, right? So you have two parents who are now divorced, and they're trying to make up for the loss of the household being together with stuff. So there's this high degree of consumerism to try to appease and make our children happy. But guess what? That happiness is so short-term. It is so short-lived, right? They would much rather have a gift, but more importantly, the gift of your presence. So that's one, high levels of consumerism. Running before we walk, right? So I wrote this book called Wealth Over Riches, 10 Principles to Shift from Looking Rich to Building Wealth Habits. Because what I learned, more so when I moved to Atlanta 6 years ago, was that there was this high degree of facade and flashy lifestyles without the actual economic stability supporting it. And some people can get caught up in that. And that's because they have not yet developed the mental control and the behavioral disciplines that are congruent with their goals. And so please do yourself a favor. We don't have to compete with the Joneses, the Kings, or the Davises. We're supposed to complement one another, not compete with one another. So when we remove and dial back that philosophical belief, it'll help propel you to be intentional around financial stability, financial security, and then financial freedom. Right? So go ahead.
No, I really like that because it's really, what style that's necessary. It sounds like first it starts up here with even making a decision to do what's necessary and then actually execute on it. And
Absolutely.
I like the one phrase that you said that I like is that we have to be responsible for our own economic condition.
Yes.
And that means that, whether you're in the wealthy category, you have your responsibility there. Whether you're
Yes.
middle class, you got your responsibility there. Whether you, might be in the poverty, it doesn't matter which level. Each one does carry its own nuances,
It
right?
does.
Now, I would rather have these nuances
Rich
than
people
these
problems,
nuances.
right?
Okay, I would rather have these problems, but
Yeah.
but I think that, and I don't want to get okay. And Champ, if you can help me shape this as I'm sharing this, because sometimes within the church, right, we
Yeah.
have had in the past, and I think Bishop Hilliard was like one of the first people that began to turn my mind with regard to just our thoughts about money and still remaining in a walk of faith, right, as if it was a bad thing and whatever. And it was shared that. Because we didn't have it, we felt like that we weren't supposed to have it. So even the verse of, money is the root of all evil. Like, I grew up thinking that. I did not know that it said the love of money until I was grown. Like, I'm talking about probably 30.
Yeah.
And I don't go to church every Sunday, but I promise you, I didn't even know that. And I was like, oh, wow.
Yeah.
And so that culture that has existed with us inside of the church sometimes is and so I just want to expand upon that, Champ. If you, I want to make sure I'm saying this part correctly, but is that something that you've also seen? I mean, because you grew up in the church, so you've seen certain aspects of that as well, and that's something that our Bishop Chancey King, that he does speak more towards of walking not only in your purpose, but then also that it's okay for, us to have wealth as well, right? And so, Champ, I'm sorry.
No, I was just agreeing with you. You're absolutely right. For a long time, I heard that verse quoted. I mean, you see people quoted on Facebook, Instagram, posts everywhere, and you're right. It's about the key word. They say reading is fundamental. So everything you're saying was on point, and we hear it a lot of times misquoted within the church environment too, and in our culture. So that was a great point you brought up. So, and the things you're saying, Ms. Davis, I mean, it's absolutely true. A lot of people are commenting, I mean, the same thing. They're all saying so true, so true. So, I mean, these misconceptions have been passed down from generation to generation. And a lot of my peers who are the same age as me, 20, 25, 26, 27, they have these same thoughts. So that's why I appreciate your candidness and honesty with this question, because it's going to break down some barriers to people. So I appreciate it.
And listen, I'm still on a quest to continue to learn how to best and efficiently create wealth. But I know that as far as having a foundation, look, it's a must-have, guys. If we don't have not only a strong foundation, if we don't have firm walls with a roof that doesn't leak, listen, I'll worry about the decor in a moment. I'll work towards the decor inside the financial house. Does that kind of make sense?
Right.
But I'm still on a quest to learn. I'm learning, I'm reading, I am listening to podcasts every single day to increase and enhance not only my own level of financial freedom, right? Because that's the track that I'm after now. I have the stability, I have the security, and I think there's different layers. The financial freedom is the next most important thing for me and for many of my clients, right? How can we make sure that we have passive income, that we have residual income, that we have while I sleep income, right? All of those things become very important. But if we can't deal with the very basis of how we manage a dollar, how can we show God that we trust him and that he can trust us? So let's not get it twisted. God knows exactly what he's doing. Yes, there are, and I'm going to use this phrase and please forgive me, but yes, there are some fools out there who have a boatload of money from various, resources, and hey, they have it. They've been, blessed with it, if you will. And then there are some who are uber spiritual and close to God who are scraping together 2 pennies. Doesn't matter where you are, it's just a matter of what you're going to do with it.
That's that last line. Say that one more time.
It doesn't matter where you are, it's just a matter of what you're going to do with it.
Yep.
So
that's fire.
I'm done.
Oh, I need to write that down.
Mic drop.
I'm gonna have to tweet that real quick.
Hey, but do we have any more questions that's from the audience?
So we have someone asked, how does it look to have that quote unquote sleeping income besides investing and without working a million jobs?
So listen, there are all kinds, and I'm sure many, I'm sure Elam, you can speak to this, Mr. King, you can speak to it as well. So let me share my story, and I think this is going to help answer the question, because you can say all kinds of businesses, but it really doesn't tie in. When I was 22 and graduated from Radford University, I came home and was introduced to the world of network marketing. And that may have a negative connotation, but please do me a favor, keep your minds and your ears open as well as your hearts. But with that system, particularly with the service that I was providing at the time, it provided both passive income when I built out a team, and it also provides residual income. So when a person continues to pay for their monthly membership, right, as we do Amazon is making passive income every time we renew our Prime memberships, for example.
That's real.
Isn't it real? So being introduced to that type of business model really helped me to scale my opportunities around earning residual income. Sell something once, get paid for multiple times, right? Then you have your online, for example, courses. This is one of the things that Mr. King and we continue to challenge each other in regards to increasing, producing, creating, and offering. Well, once you offer those types of platforms, then you know that you're building passive income, because now you've built out the content, you're inviting people to take part, and they're paying you, but you've already done the work. That's passive income. And then if they decide to enroll in other programs, then now you're producing, or you put them on a membership, now you're producing residual income, right? Those are some grassroots efforts around building residual income and passive income. There are people who market on, not market, but they have, and I've forgotten the name of it, but Amazon has a partnership where you can have a website and sell products through Amazon, but it's yours, so to speak, so you get a percentage of what the sales volume is. That's passive income. You're not producing the product, you're not producing the website, you just agreed, you signed on to it, and you're managing it, right? So there's all types of ways to actually do that from a business perspective, which is distinctly different from your investment strategies. Do either of you guys want to lean into that as well?
I didn't
Yeah.
even know Amazon had that. That sounds like a plug and play for real. That's deep.
Yes.
Yeah. No, I didn't either. But I do want to elaborate on one thing you said. Well, not really elaborate, but further point on it is. It sounds like, and from my experience of trying to get that passive income, it takes work.
Oh,
And I posted
yeah.
about this recently on LinkedIn. It takes many times of getting it wrong to finally figure out what works to get that passive income.
Absolutely.
So
There's a saying, I know I'm going to butcher it, but to your point, and I think you'll
yeah,
appreciate this, that it takes at least 7 opportunities to really find that opportunity meant for you. And so you have to fail forward. There's a book written by John C. Maxwell titled Failing Forward, right? And then even in that, there's another book by it's going to come to me in a minute, but the title of the book is All You Can Do is All You Can Do, and All You Can Do is Enough. Right. So as you're involved in these businesses, then you begin to cut your teeth, you begin to grow your teeth, and you begin to develop a stronger bite. I've never used this analogy before, but literally, like, it's real. And a part of my story is that after 22, and being introduced to the network marketing space, I was, recruited to teach and all this stuff, but I had this desire to be a full-fledged entrepreneur. And so when I earned enough from my network marketing opportunity to replace my full-time income, I launched out there into the deep. Now I had a safety net, not just income, but I stayed with mom and dad for a little while. I worked hard. I realized that opportunity was a door opener for other opportunities that led me to now my passion, what I'm doing now, right? So you begin to learn how to connect dots through various opportunities. And I will say I have applied that whole failing forward principle literally to my life.
And I want to add to that. It's so funny you're saying that. I've been posting on LinkedIn about that so many times in the past few days, just talking about being open to failing. I actually have a book coming out in October called Beautiful Day to Fail. And the reason I wrote that is because it wasn't until I became okay with taking that chance, stepping off that ledge, that I fell into my purpose.
Yes.
So I heard TD Jakes say, until you keep on failing, when you fail, sometimes you fall into your purpose. And I was like, wow, and how do you fall? You have to be willing to do that. That's crazy.
And I think that a great, portion to that as well is that, we have an opportunity as believers of taking kingdom principles and actually applying them.
Yeah.
And people can say, they want to lead people to Christ and all this and that, but the best way is you go out here and be great. And then people are like, how did you do that? And I'm like, well, let me tell you about this friend named Jesus. You know what I'm saying? Like, for real, like, but then it's a real story at that point versus silver spoon and I'm always in glory, hallelujah. Come on, like, for real, like, go out there and fail.
Yes.
And I think that because, we're so fear. And there was a book, oh my goodness, about fear. I don't have the exact title right now, but it said that 90% of the things that we worry and fear about never, ever even happen. So I'm like, oh, man.
Yep.
Huh?
Yeah, my dad spoke on that.
Yeah, man, 90% of them.
Because guys, and I believe you guys know this with every fiber in your being. Our subconscious mind, as well as our conscious mind, can either play to our advantage or play to our disadvantage.
Right.
Right. And so when we start having these self-talks and it starts sounding like doubt, it starts sounding like fear or apprehension or concern and worry, and you know what I mean? Lack, right? I make less than, therefore I am less than. All of those things began to stifle you. And when we start working on controlling our inner dialogue and controlling our mind, right? God says, what does he say about, oh Lord, I would be online and I can't remember my Bible verse. But
It's all right.
he talks about controlling your thoughts. He wants us to think on these things. Think on these things, right? Love, peace, joy, happiness. He's telling us what to focus on. And oftentimes we forget that, and and yet it's a daily practice. We don't wake up one day and we fully arrived mentally to demolish and eradicate fear. No, sometimes we gotta.
Oh, that's so good. That's so good because that's so true. It's an ongoing. It's a journey.
It's a journey, and you gotta let that fear know. Listen, I've had more success in beating you down than you beating me down. Now, you might be getting me right now, but I'm coming back. Sorry, go ahead.
And no, that's good because I think that inside of, I mean, one of the biggest pieces, money, right? People just like, you know, they want to. A friend of mine said this back in 2005. He said, Elam, you're real. He said, Elam, you're real cheap. He said, I don't know why he said that. And then he said, one thing that he said, my mom always told me that if you hold your hand closed, right, then you cannot give, but you also cannot receive. But if you open your hand, you can give and you can receive. So stop being so cheap. And then that's when I kind of started taking a mental understanding of even tithing, right? And, you know, I can speak this and Shaunda could call me a lie. I mean, when it came to tithing, I was like, okay, off the top, this is what I'm doing. I'm just going to go, okay, I'm going to take these principles. And I'm be like, okay, you said this going to come back tenfold. Okay, so I'm going for the tenfold, you know. But then not only taking that and then applying that to the different things that I want to do. And now I can come boldly before the throne and be like, hey, well, hold on, God. You told me to do this. I'm doing this. And that, you know, and I, of course, that's not everything, but that is how him and I communicate. And that's where I think the relationship can come from. So I would say, and you know, Shaunda, let me know whether you would agree with this, is that when it comes to your finances, maybe some people need to sit down and have that conversation with God first and ask him to give them that direction and give them that revelation. And then from there, I know that you're going to be given something, but the answer is not don't do nothing. That's not the answer. Do something.
That's correct. Yeah, I mean, God is that voice inside of us that sometimes we listen to and sometimes we choose not to. And when we choose to tune more into either his voice or his word, right? More times than not, you're going to be led to a better position. And then oftentimes we can recognize our blind spots. We can recognize those areas where we overspend, don't save, you know, all these different things, or we invest, but we don't know what the same world we're investing in. It's just the company told us to, right? The company told us that we can, and I know someone else told me that I should. But when are we going to take responsibility to know what we're doing and what we're investing in? So I don't know how I got off track, but at the end of the day,
that's all in line. If you ask me, I don't know, Chad. It all go together.
God, he's so concerned about the little details in our life, and we know that finances is really just one area of our holistic lives that he has blessed us with. But look, I mean, he owns the cattle on 1,000 hills. Now, he may have looked like a pauper when Jesus was walking this earth, but he knew what he owned. I mean, y'all better
come
stop.
on. No, go ahead.
Y'all better stop.
I got to go back and look at that moment right there. That was classic right there. That was classic Holy Spirit moment. No, I loved it. Champ, you saw it?
Yeah,
it was like, boom.
Hey,
we're not supposed to have fun.
He walked in his own strength and truth, not worrying about nothing or anyone and what they had. And at one point, you know, took a boat out, one point, jumped on the ass of a donkey. Like he didn't allow the flashiness of life and all that he produced, you know, when he was, you know, turning 2 fish and 5 loaves of bread into this feast. You know, he didn't get caught up on the trappings of, look at what I've produced. He didn't do none of that. But yeah, what do sometimes we do? Like God will tell, to your point, God will tell you so much about you and what you need to do. And then he'll also tell you that seek and ye shall find. So if he ain't giving it to you, then it's up to us to go find the information.
Come on.
Y'all better leave me alone.
No, but that brings us to the reason why that we have EMPOWERMAY, because some people are looking and they don't know where to go sometimes. So this is just starting the engine with this particular topic, which is so important. So this is what we wanted to bring to the community of letting people know, okay, you want to start the engine. Good place to start is finances.
Yeah.
Okay. So we have some other topics that we're going to go to as well, and we want to take a moment and just share if you're being touched or anything that tonight, anything that was shared that would even be a piece of a nugget. Champ, if you want to give we just ask for small donations of maybe just $1 to the Cash App. And Champ, what was that? Because I can't remember what it was.
Yeah. So the Cash App is $GWtabernacle. And I know if you've been watching, I cannot imagine you've watched this whole thing and not gotten
$1.
Yeah,
one nugget.
What Elam say? Oh, open the hands, and so and here's also where I want everyone to do who's watching. In some way, Ms. Davis is giving us his time, her expertise, and this is only the surface level of the knowledge that she has. Support her. This is a community effort. We're trying to give back to the community. This is how we support each other. If you can support Miss Davis, if you want to tell them, different ways that
where can they find you, girl? Where can they find you? They need you. Ooh, they need you.
Well, my business model is really transitioning to a referral basis business model. So Mr. Elam King came to me as a referral. He referred me to, Mr. Chancey and things along those lines. So I say that to simply say, if you schedule on my calendar app, please make sure that you mention Greater Works Tabernacle. Just please mention Greater Works Tabernacle. But you can find me online at ashaundadavis.com. This is my name. It doesn't have my middle initial. But that's where you'll also be able to pick up your book of Wealth Over Riches, 10 Principles to Shift from Looking Rich to Building Wealth Habits. I've seen quite a few books in the market and in the industry, and some of them are exceptionally great. Some of them are too simple. And I don't know if you're gonna get anything. And then some of them are so complex. It's like, oh my God, where do I even start with this? Right. I think this is a great place to really begin to work on a paradigm shift, to then look at your, again, behavioral patterns and habits and make sure that they are aligned, right? So definitely want to look at getting that. Also on Instagram, you can find me at AD_the financial advisor. On Facebook, you'll find me at Ashaunda Davis. And Twitter, I barely get on Twitter, y'all, so y'all have to forgive me. It's out, I'm out there, so but I just don't remember my handle.
I'm like that too. I have an account, but I don't know.
I'm not a Twitter.
The youngsters,
Yeah. So hopefully that helps. Oh, but let me also just kind of give you this. If you do want to schedule that that consultation, it's going to be complimentary. You can use my calendar link. It's www.meet.so/my name, Ashaunda Davis. meet.so/Ashaunda Davis. And my commitment to your church, my commitment, more importantly, to Christ, and my commitment to myself is to add value even in the consultation. I'm not just looking to try to win you as a client. We may be a good fit, but guess what? We may not.
Right.
But either way, I hope to make sure that there's some value that you receive and walk away with.
And if you could, I'm typing it into the social media platforms now. That was Meet. What was that? www.
Meet, MEET, me.so/Ashaunda Davis. And let me also provide this to you. On my website, ashaundadavis.com, if you don't have a spending plan, AKA a budget worksheet that you operate off of, go to my website right now. There's like 2 tools that you'll have access to, totally free, totally complimentary.
I live by it.
And that will help you to itemize all of your expenses, and then, bring that to the consultation, and we can enhance your plan as well, because it always starts with how you spend your money anyway.
So necessary.
Look, you guys got the information. I mean, we could have gone so much deeper.
Right. We might have to do a part 2.
Oh my goodness.
EMPOWERMAY, and maybe we got like Jumpin' June or something like.
Jumpin' June.
I really want you guys to also make sure you come back and bring all of your speakers together so that we can try to, complement our topics in
Come on, synergy. Yes.
I'm just saying.
Hey, there we go. Look,
yes.
Man, look, Elam, Elam and I have realized in organizing this through several different women telling us different ideas that we missed a lot of details. All right. So, men, we have a great idea. We run with it. We go. You guys come just like it's nothing. Great ideas off the top. And so we're trying to get better.
I think you guys know I'm a champion for men. Now I love my women. My women naturally come to me, but I am a champion for you all men. And so because you had the vision to even do this, you guys are celebrated by me and so many others out there who are receiving this content. So we don't take anything away from you.
It went like this. Elam, I got this idea. And I was like, what you got? And I was like, oh, that's dope. And there goes EMPOWERMAY right there.
There you go. You see what I'm saying?
Nah, but I really appreciate Ms. Davis, you just coming on board tonight. And we're probably going to have you back at, like 10 more times, because finance is an area that there's no magic bullet. There's multiple different areas, and again, as our temperature changes, hopefully, and grows inside of the responsibility of the how did you put it? Hold on, I gotta say it. The economic condition, all right, that we have, we need ongoing maintenance, and so that's why visiting with somebody like yourself allows us to grow. So I thank you so much just for sharing tonight. We're going to, Champ can pray us out, or just, turn on some music or something, or, we just, Champ, what you think, man?
Yeah, no, this was a great session. If you guys enjoyed it, put some clapping emojis or amens in the comments. And I want you guys, to please, like I say, support Ms. Davis. I know you will, because she gave us so much, and so many nuggets. However, next week we have the one and only Elam King hitting us with some nuggets about relationships. Help us get that thing right.
I will be tuned in.
Yep. So make sure you stay tuned in for that. This session right here is already recorded. It's on YouTube right now. If you want to share it with your friends, share it with your family. We're going to keep this up. And then at the end, as proposed by Ms. Davis, a great idea, we will try to do a combination of everyone. So stay tuned next week, and I'll pray us out really quick, and everyone have a wonderful night. So look, God, we thank you. Thank you for an awesome session. Thank you for the awesome minds you've allowed to come together. We pray that this blesses and touches the individuals that have watched, the ones that are going to watch. And we just thank you for giving us the tools and the resources to bless others. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Have
Amen.
a wonderful night. Thank you, guys.
Take care, gentlemen.
Thank you.
All right, you too.